Olympic gold medalist, four-time Olympian, 188 appearances for Canada, the Destroyer, Desiree Scott. Desiree, thank you so much here for joining the Observer Football Podcast. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. Thanks for that hyped introduction. I love it.
And you know what? This is a podcast that honestly, this is just being very honest. Since I started I wanted to start this podcast, the number one guest I was wanting to talk to is yourself, because not only do we talk about Canadian soccer here, but we also like to represent the 204. And there's nobody really in Canadian soccer who I think represents the 204 and honey dill sauce than yourself, Desiree.
And two of my favorite things, my city and honey dill. So I'm happy to join, happy to chat today.
You know, it was really funny too. I've been doing some research, obviously, about your career, just about how you've been able to play in the States as well. And I did hear a part of it where you were kind of mentioning honey dill sauce to the to players in Kansas City there. Hopefully they got to try it. Hopefully they got to like it. It's definitely one of a kind.
As soon as you come to anywhere that I usually hosted some of the team parties or get-togethers, and I had honey dill always on the side with whatever snack. So people actually loved it once they heard what it was.
And that's the funny thing too. It's one of those things that's Manitoba, right? And also too, when I have conversations with, friends, family, even coworkers who are even just in other provinces, they don't even know about socials. You know what I mean? So it's just different type of lingo out here.
100%. Something unique to our city for sure.
Well, I mean, one thing that's definitely been unique here is especially with the warm weather here in January, -4. Who would have thought? But Desiree, we are here today to talk about your story. And your story is one that's inspired many across Canada, across international soccer, but it's also been a very big inspiration here in Manitoba. A lot of players I've talked to over the years, and just being able to see you play, we've called you the Manitoba GOAT.
Well, I appreciate that. That's high praise for me. I appreciate it.
Well, I guess that's the biggest thing I really kind of wanted to talk about. So, I know there's been a lot of talk recently just about like youth development here in Winnipeg. Because again, we have a lot of talent here. And a lot of the kind of narrative that's been kind of building around here is that, if you want to become to the highest levels of soccer here, you always got to go abroad. But one thing that's really intriguing me about your story is that I know you have classified yourself as a homebody. And your story really kind of represents that coming through the youth development system here. So I really kind of want to kind of get into the background of that because, again, for the youth players that are coming up today, I think that's a very strong message because technically, if you want to be successful, you don't necessarily have to move away from the province to get to the highest levels.
I think that's what I want people to know from my story. I think one, it is a unique story, a unique path. And I think all athletes who are trying to achieve goals and get to that next level, you're going to have your own pathway. But I'm one of the few people who stayed local. I am a homebody. I love my city. I love my family. I was able to go through the Manitoba system, the youth programs here, regional training centers, and really just tick every little box along the way. Did I have to work a little harder? Yes, because, Winnipeg, Manitoba gets a rep. I'm still having to this day to represent and wear Winnipeg on my chest. Like good players can come from here. And that is something that fueled me early days in my career to show, improve, and put Manitoba on the map and just do the work. And so I went even to university, stayed local in the province because I wanted my family and friends to be in the stands. So what's great is there is a pathway now from grassroots all the way up to professional. And I think with committed investment, continuing to develop the coaches, the programming that's available to kids, I think sky's the limit. You don't need to leave. You just got to be willing to put in the work.
And that's the big thing, too. That's been a really big part of the story here for the last couple of years, especially. I mean, not only is there talks and high likelihood that there's going to be League One competition now finally coming to the prairies, to Manitoba in general. And now it's going to give more opportunities to the men and women to help advance their career to that next level. And I know we're going to talk about it. I will have some questions. I know that as you're repping the sweater, the NSL, the first coming off its inaugural season in Canada, the first ever women's professional league. Definitely there's been some rumors. There's been some talking points about it. So Desiree, there's going to be some questions about that. And if there's any little details that you can provide about a potential expansion for here in Manitoba.
Yeah, I mean, I was so fortunate in my time to be able to be a part of the NSL, Northern Super League. I've been in locker rooms with the Diana Mathesons, Christine Sinclairs of the world with the national team. And how are we one of the top nations, top 10 nations to not have a domestic professional league in our country? And so to be able to live it, play in it, run around with these 20-year-olds, still smashing them, I might add. But, it was an amazing thing to be a part of in its inaugural season. And now we have pro soccer here in Canada. And 2027, they are looking to expand. And my mission and my goal is to continue to put Manitoba on the map and get a team to our city. So that's in the works right now.
Well, definitely have more questions about that. But before we do, I want to rewind the clock. I want to go back to your childhood, the early days of the Destroyer. Now, Desiree, you've become obviously a very prominent figure here in soccer. You honed your skills, obviously called the Destroyer for a reason. Can you just take me back? What drew you? I guess what kind of was your story in your game of soccer? Like, what drew you to the sport?
Honestly, I started playing because of my older brother, Nick. He played soccer. He played for FC Northwest, the same club I played for growing up. And honestly, it's something we bonded over. Siblings, they usually butt heads. They don't get along, but something me and my brother bonded over was playing soccer in the backyard. I would go to his games, and I just always said, I want to be like my big brother, Nick. I definitely got further than him. He'll always say that, but he definitely has a better left foot than me. But nonetheless, yeah, he was kind of my inspiration early days to get involved in the sport.
And that's the one thing too that was very kind of curious when reading about that. Like, I mean, obviously you have the nickname the Destroyer for a reason. I mean, you've also described yourself having two different personalities, one off the pitch and one on the pitch, where off the pitch, you're a sweetheart, and obviously I can kind of tell this, I'm going to talk to you here, but also on the field, you're the Destroyer, right? You're physical, you're always going to be willing to get stuck in on challenges and just be able to lead your team. And I feel like playing in the backyard there with your brother, I feel like that was probably the case with how developing into the player you became today.
1,000%. He developed my competitive edge. He developed, me never always wanting to win and give my best. He rarely let me win, which was annoying. But yeah, definitely stemmed in the backyard. And I think it dictates my play today. I love that physical battle. I love putting my body on the line. And I think it's so cool that I have a nickname, like one of the few soccer players that do. So I stand by it. My game stock talks the talk. And yeah, it's pretty cool.
And the other thing that I always found really interesting and kind of a trademark from you is obviously the pink headband. And when doing also further research, I know that's been a big part of your identity and a big superstition of yours. And I even saw an old photo on FC Northwest's Instagram where you were wearing a black, headband. What inspired to go to the color pink? Because, I saw the black headband, but why the color pink?
Pink in my early teens just became a color that I loved. My room was pink, all my accessories were pink, and it was just kind of a little bit of an obsession. And I found a pink Lululemon headband one day when I was shopping with my mom and put it on, and it never left, honestly, and just became my thing. I couldn't play without it.
Okay, and I have to ask this too. Is that the same headband that you've been using all these years?
I had to go to Lululemon and get a few extras because they've stopped producing it. But like my original one, I still have. It is like discolored and stained and all those things, but I still have my original headband. And a lot of girls after games are like, "Can I have your headband?" I could never give it away because I was like, "I need it. It's the only way I can play." So it's quite funny. But yeah, I still have the original and a few extras.
Yeah, I even heard like, I know you're very giving to the fans, but that's the one piece that we just cannot part from. And that's something that like it's always a trademark for you. And I was just very curious. I'm like, I saw the photo, I'm like, a black headband. I've only even really easy seeing with a pink one. So I was really curious to hear about that transition there.
Yeah, you went back into the archives there. Yeah.
I did. Now, Desiree, I also just kind of want to take a little step back there to FC Northwest. So I know that you started in your backyard playing against your brother, obviously learning the skills of becoming the future destroyer and the future prominent figure in Canadian soccer. But in going through youth development there with FC Northwest, did you initially start as a midfielder or did you play other positions and then transition to that role?
Yeah, I started off my career as a striker. I used to score a lot of goals and I loved it. But yeah, I just slowly then became like more of an attacking midfielder. And then with the national team, I played some youth national team. I played right back. So I kind of have played all the positions minus goalkeeper. And then, yeah, with the national team, I got thrown into the midfield. One of our regular mainstays got injured, and that was kind of my time to shine. And I never looked back.
See, that's always very interesting to see because again, I always feel like a lot of prominent players start off in like the forward or winger striker position, and then they work their way back at some points. Like I think I don't know if you're familiar with Tyson Farrago as well.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm good friends with Tyson, and he was telling me when he was in his youth, he was a striker, and then he ended up moving to being a goalkeeper. I'm like, interesting. You never really get to hear that dynamic, but it kind of gets you a sense of like, it does make a lot of sense though, because obviously when you got to the pro level and how good you were at, especially at holding the line and be able to take on players and challenges, you had the idea how players move. You weren't just used to how one position is. So that was something I was really interested in, and wanted to get your insight on that because again, I know for a fact that growing up, your two obviously role models you were looked up to were Diana Matheson. You know, obviously the whole reason why I know a lot of other people as well for the NSL starting up, a prominent and historic figure there in the Canadian national team. But also as well, you're a big fan of the Invincibles, Thierry Henry from Arsenal as well. So it's kind of interesting to see how that ties in and just how you're able to develop those skills based on your role models.
Yeah, I think obviously you study the game as you get more serious into it. As a pro with the national team, they always want you to find players to emulate. And I remember looking at Diana Matheson, 5'1", I'll give her that. And just like small but mighty and just a boss in the midfield. In early days when I was looking at that, I was like, she is someone I could see myself playing like her. And she was someone that inspired me early on. And I've had the fortunate ability to be able to play with her for years on the national team. So that was beautiful, build a friendship. And yeah, Thierry Henry went my striker days. I mean, he was a boss in his early days for Arsenal, scoring goals, just magic on the ball. So,
Oh, that's amazing. I actually have a really little funny story with this. So I actually was just in England back in November and, just going there, went there in France, and I was at Houston Station. And guess who was at Houston Station? It wasn't Thierry, but Micah Richards. Big Meeks was there. And I was like, hey, Micah, I went up to him, Micah, can I get a photo? And then he was on the phone. He's like, hold on, TT, I got to take a photo. And I'm like, you're on the phone with Thierry? I was like, it was so cool. And I'm like, is Thierry in the train station here? And I don't know. Sorry, I just wanted to tie that in there because I was 5 feet away I was a couple inches away from talking to Thierry Henry.
so cool.
Yeah. So obviously, Desiree, you went through the FC Northwest Academy. Shout out to them. Obviously, very prominent figure, and they're thriving here in Winnipeg. Glad to see that happening there. Albeit they have given me some frustrations in men's league as of late. They're a very good side. So again, hopefully, they can't get one up on me next time. But let's also talk about, you've gone through the youth system. You've obviously become very prominent figure here in your teams. But, you graduate from West Godona High School and you're taking the next steps in your career. Now, I know that you mentioned before that as like a lot of athletes do here, you get tons and tons of offers from U.S. Universities, colleges, you name it. And, at that time, the University of Manitoba, the Bisons have their team there ready as well for you. Can you just kind of take me back? Like, you said you're a homebody, but like what really attracted you to pick the University of Manitoba Bison's team over some opportunities abroad?
Yeah, I think it was just that being a complete homebody and set on the opportunity to be able to play in front of family and friends week in, week out. I did get quite a few offers from the US, and at the time when they were coming in, like I wasn't even considering them. And then I remember Walt McKee, Gary Johnson, they were in charge of the program back in the day. And they came to my door, they sat at my kitchen table, they talked to myself and my mom, and they just painted a beautiful picture of continuing to build things and grow things in a program that was new here in Manitoba. And I like that idea of building something, having impact, and always doing it again in my province and doing that close to home. So those two things hand in hand, being able to play soccer, get quality education, and do it right in my province, it was a no-brainer for me to stay.
And there's one key word I want to hit on there: builder. Now, if I'm not mistaken, correct me if I'm wrong. That time that you joined in your first season there with the Bison's team, was that their first time in the CIS?
In the CIS, yep.
Okay, so there's obviously going to be some tie-in here. There's, I think, 3 instances I can think of where the builder. I'm starting to really come up with that name there because you've been a part of multiple projects where it's been in the inaugural season. So, and that's the one thing too I really want to talk about here. with the University of Bison's team, the University of Manitoba Bison's team there, it has a really great program. Trust me, gone to games there, and geez, these girls, these women are so good at soccer. Like, it's just unbelievable. And I'm like, you're seeing a lot of this talent now start getting opportunities abroad and just starting to get those opportunities more professionally as well. But can you just talk about, like, transitioning from, the youth level to university level? How did that mold your game to become the professional you are today?
Yeah, I think that the key transition there was just one, the time management and the commitment to the game and having to balance that. You have to go to school full time, university. Your days are full on top of that training to play at the highest level I had at that point. Um, yeah, so I think it's just taught me a lot of skills in terms of time management, leadership, and just bridging that gap between what it takes to play at a high level and train daily and manage all of those things all at once. So it was a great little building block to get me to that next step and next level.
Hey, I like to hear that too. And I have this little question though. Obviously, U of M's and obviously the south side of the city off Pembina, it's out there. It's way out there. Did you bust it out there or did you drive out there most of the time for practices
I
and
was
games?
I was fortunate to have a car. So I had early class like 8:30 in the morning. So I'd leave my house at 7:30 because it was like a 45-minute drive in the heat of traffic going down Pembina. It's awful. And then I would stay honestly till 11 o'clock most nights because I'd have to train. We'd train from 4 to 6 p.m. after a full day of school. And then I would stay back in the libraries to study and do it all again the next day. So yeah, it was a trek and a journey and a commitment, but I'm a proud Bison. So
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And that's the other thing too there. The commitment, the dedication you had, it just really helps enforce that type of that discipline you need for the next level there. And the reason why I ask about the whole bus and transportation thing is, trust me, I take the bus for work, for other things like that. I also have a car, but waiting for a bus sometimes can be the most frustrating thing. And I was just curious because sometimes that can take hours to get there especially from the north side of town.
100%. Then you add in some cold weather to that. No, thank you.
Oh, trust me, I have a bus stop that has no bus shelter, and sometimes it's -30 off of Nairn, and I'm just freezing. And I'm like, why do I live here? Because I'm like, But yeah, no, that was just something I thought that would be a fun little tidbit there, because I think it really shows the commitment that you have. Now, this is another question I really have for you too, because again, you've gone through the levels here in Winnipeg and Manitoba in general, but for the youth players coming up now, I mean, there's definitely a lot more options than, let's say, I had potentially as well. You're a real trailblazer in your at your time, and also still till now. Do you have any advice for those players that are coming up to that university level? But what should they be looking for when taking that next step in their development?
Yeah, I think what's beautiful is that there are more options, not only in terms of academies, clubs that are available in Winnipeg. There is also now potentially League One, like the steps to getting to the pros, if that is your goal. There's a lot more like smooth transition in that way. I think what's the biggest part for me is the commitment to the game. I think nothing that you want comes easy and it's going to take work and ethic. I think you've got to be willing to put in the work and have that discipline and commitment to the game, to your craft, and also just the discipline of what it takes to be an athlete. But also that love of what you're doing. I wouldn't have been able to play for so many years if I didn't love it. And then for the youth that are coming up, I think just continue to train, make the ball your best friend, and trust your instincts. Not every day is going to be sunshine and lollipops, but if you have a goal, that end goal in mind, one, the pathways are there now that didn't exist in my time. So the path is a little bit easier, but it's going to take work. It's going to take a grind and just the commitment to the game to get there.
I think that's very good advice. I think that's also one of the big things too, that it could be said for a lot of athletes in general, is again, never giving up and just sticking with that discipline and staying true to that passion. Because I feel like a lot of times when a lot of individuals that can't, might quit when it gets too hard, right? You have a bad game, you get demotivated, you stop going to training, you stop, taking that extra step there. And I think that's a lot of things here that a lot of the youth and especially developing players here got to consider here. The old saying is, you fall off the horse, just get back on it, right? And I think that's one thing that you really need to really consider is when you try and be the best, you really can never give up, and you always got to be pushing yourself to that next level.
1,000%.
So, Desiree, now that we kind of talked about, your journey at University of Bison's there, University of Manitoba Bison's team there, a lot of great development there from you personally and just how you became the player you are today. Now it's the next step. You finally graduate from University of Manitoba. Now you want to take the next step in your professional career. Lo and behold, the builder, like the thing we talked about, the NWSL starts up. And again, that opportunity pops up in Kansas City. Why Kansas City? Why, like, what chose you to go down to the States? I'm really interested to hear about that decision to go down to Kansas.
Yeah. I was part of the national team at the time, and in the sort of creation of the NWSL, again, year one, able to be a part of it in the inaugural season. It was a culmination of the US national team, Canada national team, and Mexico at the time, who had come together to build a league for its players to thrive and play in a professional environment day in and day out. So the national team kind of came to us and they said, okay, choose your top three spots across the league where you want to play. Everyone was choosing Portland, Seattle, the big spots. And I said, where can I go that nobody else is going to pick? And honestly, it was me and my best friend at the time, Lauren Sesselman, on the national team who chose Kansas City. For me, it was like a smaller place, again, a place that I could come have my impact. The Christine Sinclairs wouldn't be there overshadowing me and scoring all the goals. Like it was just, it felt right to me, and not only 12 hours down the I-29 to get there from Winnipeg. So proximity, and a chance to go somewhere that nobody kind of wanted to go. And I absolutely loved my time in Kansas City. So it was a great choice for me.
Oh, and I love to hear that too. And I mean, that's the other part I really kind of want to talk about too. Again, homebody. You describe yourself as a homebody, and moving away from Winnipeg, that takes a lot of transition, right? So I think that's the one thing that kind of gets overlooked in sports is, when you move to different cities, there's a whole different adaptation, new way of life, right? It's just a whole different ball game here for players, and some of them sometimes they don't settle well. What really helped you in terms of settling in Kansas City?
They have delicious barbecue. No, I'm joking. They do. They do have the best barbecue. If you've never tried it, you need to try Kansas City barbecue. But at the time, like I said, it was close enough to home. Like me and my brother, Nick, the guy who started me in soccer, like we had a annual trip down. We would drive down to Kansas. We'd pack the car. It would be like a weekend thing where we would go down. It was close enough that family could fly or drive down to visit me. I had my best friend there at the time, so we were able to go on this journey together, kind of go arm in arm, taking things on in stride. And again, I am a homebody, but there was a point where I was like, I need to spread my wings and do what's best for my career to try and get to the next level. And at that time, it was leaving Winnipeg, going to play in a pro league that was still in North America, not too far. I didn't have to go to Europe or England, places like that later in life. I did head over there, but yeah, it was just the time to do it. And, it was close enough to family that if I needed them, they could fly down and visit.
So you always had that support in case that you were missing home, getting homesick. So that's great to hear because again, for a lot of players, sometimes that proximity can be a real hindrance for them.
For sure. It's not easy.
And that also brings me to the next point too. So again, I just come back to the builder, and you're going through your first season with Kansas City, a new league, and it's obviously today it's a very prominent league, and one that I hope that the NSL will reach to eventually one day. And obviously, off its first season, it has a lot of high hopes of doing so. But can you just talk about like your first year with Kansas City? About it's a new squad to the city, a lot of engagement with the community, I assume. Can you just talk about like how that was like? How did you kind of manage that going through your first season?
Yeah, I think, being a professional for the first time, like it was kind of obviously you have that reflection now that I'm retired and I think, wow, what a career I've had. But when I was living it at the time, like I was like, I'm a pro, like this is my job. I get to play soccer. I get paid for it. Like what a dream. So I was kind of just riding the wave of, wow, this is what you're doing on the daily and trying to enjoy the journey. In hindsight, like building a league is not easy. I think there was a lot of things that, looking back now, I'm like, dang, we went through it. Like we didn't have locker rooms. We were changing in our cars. We were playing on a high school football field with lines all over them. Like there was a lot of, groundwork that has put in to make the NWSL what it is today. And to see that growth, be a part of year one, to play in it for 8 years after that, like it's cool to see the progression and growth of it. And at that time when I first joined, again, I was just so excited to be a pro and to be able to play games and do what I love.
And that's another thing too. That's just kind of shows like where you like basically how it started, right? Again, playing on high school pitches with the American football fields, the yardages. As a goalie, that would mess with me a lot. I'm not gonna lie, that would throw me off a lot. But the one thing I really wanted to ask you for, and this is the reason why I want to do so, is because again, we're going to talk about it later, the NSL and potential expansion of Winnipeg. community is a huge thing. And, I think engaging the community is going to be one of the key successes for any franchise, for any club to succeed at where they're at. In that time with Kansas City, can you just talk about something like how the engagement with the community really helped the squad propel itself to where it is today?
Yeah, I think we had an amazing fan group that is still in existence. The KC Blue Crew. They were incredible from the jump. They are still supporting the Kansas City Current in the stadiums. Like original founding members are still involved supporting the crew from those days, which is incredible. And I'm a firm believer in we are nothing without our supporters. We are nothing without the fans who are going to show up week in and week out, win or lose. We had a real connection with the community from the jump, a great supporters group who made signs and tifos and had chants and really created the atmosphere and the environment for us early days. And that just made it more fun for us as athletes. We play for the fans. That's why we show up, not only for the love of the game, but to show our skill for the people who are watching. And so to have that connection for them to see that we are more than just players, we're people as well, that sort of hands-on ability to be accessible and get to know us as people and also as the athletes, I think is important. And we did that from the jump, which I think really helped.
And that's an inspiring story here that I really want to make sure it's a highlight example here for any potential franchise or new professional team that comes to Manitoba or just Winnipeg in general. Because again, I mean, I'm assuming you're a part of the community here. I know we have the potential to have a squad here that can thrive for a long time. And that's the one thing I really want to highlight here is because again, I know we have it here. It has to be, treated right. And it has to be connected well with the community because we have a fantastic community here. So that's really why I wanted to highlight that because again, with any new franchise but potentially come to Winnipeg, that's going to have to be leveraged with making this club successful.
100% important to be done the right way. We need our fans. We need the backing of the community. We need them to show up and enjoy the atmosphere, love the experience, support, buy the jerseys, all of those things. So having that connection, especially with a team that can potentially come to Winnipeg. We've seen that Winnipeggers support the sports teams, and why not do that for potentially a women's pro team? So definitely a firm believer in that community relation.
Well, I love to hear that. Now, you mentioned it before. Now, before you went to Kansas City there and got to enjoy their barbecue, I've never been there. I've been a lot of places in the States. So got to go try it. So it's on the bucket list now. You mentioned the national team. So, I mean, not a lot of people get to represent, their country. So, you're going through university there, and can you just take me through that? I'm assuming you got a phone call, from the coach at the time saying, Desiree, we want you to come make your first appearance here, get a call up for Canada. Can you just kind of talk about that whole experience and just how that feeling was for you? Because again, that's been a dream of mine, and you got to live that. So I'm really interested to hear on that whole story.
Yeah, so I obviously was a part of the youth, the youth teams for the national team, U16, U20. And then when it was time to make that jump to the senior team, I did get an invite. The coach at the time invited me when I could either come home for a week or go to camp. And what did I decide? I decided to go home because I'm a homebody and I wanted to see my family. I'd been away training for months and I was just ready to come home and take that time. He said I would never play for the national team again, which is, I never got a call up when he was the coach, which is kind of crazy. So I said, okay, I guess that's the end of my national team, experience. I went to play for the University of Manitoba Bison program. I also played for a women's team at the time. And I was actually at Club Nationals in Saskatchewan when it had been snowed out and we had to move the whole tournament indoors. I had played a few games with my club team. I'd actually pulled my quad at the time and I heard an announcement on the loudspeaker and it was like Carolina Marache, Canada's national team coach is in the building. And so me and my coach kind of look at each other and we're like, oh my gosh, what is the national team coach doing in Saskatchewan of all places? And so I wrapped up my leg with tensor and he says, you got to go play for as long as you can. And I played for 30 minutes of that game. And that was kind of I did enough, I guess, because the coach came and talked to me after and she's like, I loved what I saw. You'll get an email from me. And that was how I got my eyes back with the national team. Carolina Marache took a chance on me at Club Nationals. And it was from there that I continued on.
And you know what? That's obviously that's obviously all Canada's glad that you're able that she was able to give you a second chance there. And honestly, this really speaks true to your character. I mean, I'm assuming that probably wasn't an easy injury to go out and play for 35 minutes, and especially, I know there's obviously adrenaline and stuff like that, but man, that probably hurt after the game, that injury.
Oh yeah, we iced it up, but the power of getting that infight and having that conversation, well, you didn't feel much pain at that point.
So I know you said obviously you went through the youth level for Canada, but then you go to your first game. Like, you get to go put on the jersey, the kit, you get to make out your way out to the field. And when you first actually got to touch grass for the senior squad, how was that feeling for you? The Observer Football Podcast is proud to shout out today's sponsor, Boston Pizza. Did you know that for the month of January, Pasta Tuesday is available every day? So make sure you go fuel up with BP pasta before your next game. You really can't miss on a deal like this. Thanks again for Boston Pizza for being today's sponsor and for their ongoing support in the soccer community.
Nerve-wracking. I'm a player to this day with all the experiences I've had that still gets nerves before a match, and I think that piece is important. It means you care, but the first time you're putting on the jersey and you're like, "Oh man, like I'm here. This is crazy. I'm playing on the same pitch as a Christine Sinclair and the big names I grew up watching and knowing who have led the national team for so many years, and just to be amongst that group and be involved and get time on the pitch wearing the crest, I think one, it was for sure nerve-wracking, but at the end of the day, I was just so proud. I had such like an aha, like I can't believe I'm here moment.
And that's another thing too that you get to go and play with the Christine Sinclairs, the Diana Mathesons, and it's just a whole different level of play. Like obviously you play university, you play high level club football as well, but then you get to the national team level. Can you talk about like how was the learning curve for that? Was there any like adjustment you had to adjusting your play to the international level?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, your skill can only go so far until you hit the national team and you're like, dang, this is a whole different breed of player. The speed of play is quicker. Your thought process needs to be quicker. Your fitness level needs to be fitter. Just really, you need to one up everything, every part of your game essentially. So, early days, like I said, I wasn't a starter from the jump. I had to work and adapt to the speed of the play, international play. But being in camps regularly, consistently, and then coming home and doing the work that I had to do with my programming, my nutritionist, like I just had to work and grind and adapt. And once you're in that scene for a while and you kind of see the way of how the national team operates and what's expected of you on a day to day, it motivates you. And you don't want to be someone who lets the team down. And that was a big fueler for me. I didn't want to go into camp not being at my best. And that's what I took away every time I left camp. How can I be better the next time they call me in?
And that's like one of the key things there. And obviously, we can talk about your international career at nauseam. We could be here for hours, honestly, based on your record, the 188 caps for Canada, and that's absolutely huge. And don't worry, we're gonna touch on the May last year's game in Winnipeg at Princess Auto Stadium. I was there in attendance, got to see your final appearance there against Haiti. So. But the one thing I really want to talk about too, as we kind of talked about in the introduction, you're an Olympian. You got to be a part of 4 different Olympics. Now, don't get me wrong. There's obviously the World Cup, which I also want to get your opinion on too. But you're a gold medalist, a gold medalist. Like that's incredible. Like that's like the top echelons of athletes. And I know you've obviously won 2 bronze medals as well, but when you're in that final game and you win that gold medal, can you just talk about like that must have been just overload of emotion?
Man, it was the greatest emotion of highs that I've ever felt. It was just like I remember every vein in my neck just like popping. I was screaming and I was just on a roller coaster rush. Like I can't believe that we did it. To call yourself a world champion, to be able to say that all the work you put in paid off, to stand at the top of the podium, to beat the Americans to get there, like bucket list stuff, and then to have that gold medal put around your neck while hearing your anthem. There's no, I honestly can't describe the feeling. And when I talk about it, I still get chills. Like to be a part of that is history making. It's something that no one can ever take away. And our team at that time was so, so special. And again, coming off the backs of COVID, like when sports stopped and I was training in my basement, I invested in whatever gym equipment I could find. So the journey to get there and the fact we went on to win the whole dang thing, like that is so incredible and the highlight of my career by far. And people often ask, like, what's better, the gold or beating the Americans? It's a tough toss up, but to have a gold medal, to say world champion, to be a part of that, it's just, yeah, I have no words.
Yeah, and that's just one that again, like Canada is always considered a top nation in women's soccer or football. So I always get interchanged between the two. So whichever one we go with, I'll just say soccer just for now. But I think that really speaks to that team you're a part of. Like again, gold medal, and that just shows how great of talent here that we have in Canada. And you're obviously a part of that testament there, but it really goes to show that the skies is the limit here for soccer here in the entire nation. And that's one thing that too that's just really inspiring. I remember watching that on TV and being able to see not only you but your teammates hold up the gold medals, right there with the anthem. You made the whole nation proud, and you made me proud, obviously too. And getting to see the Canadian flag raised up there, I would do it honestly. I want to see that again. We need to see that, and like for sure, many more times.
I hope so. The program's in good hands for sure. And I think, yeah, I mean, we know what it feels like now. We have a taste of it as a national team program. And I think that's always the goal is how do we get repeat podium performances?
Absolutely. I think that's the other thing that I kind of just wanted to highlight there and kind of we're going to touch back on it like we kind of said. And again, we could be here for hours talking about your national career, but those are one of the major moments I wanted to talk about. But let's get a little bit more personal. Now, one of the reasons I say personal is, obviously you still have family back home. Obviously I've been in reading some of the background of you is that you and your family are pretty involved here in the community, and at times have been involved, with help fostering some kids in temporary housing for, just onto the new stages there for the foster care program here. And I know that becoming a legal guardian has been one of your biggest accomplishments and biggest dreams. I know you and your mom were able to become a legal guardian of your brother or son, whichever one is out. Better son, yeah. He calls you mom when he wants something, right?
Exactly, exactly.
So, I think that is another thing I really want to highlight too. Like, not only are you a professional athlete, but you bring a newborn baby home, right? You start to think, oh, well, I'm a mom now, or big sister, whatever we're gonna say. We'll say mom, but you become a mom now. You got another human being that you got to take care of here. So that's a whole new adaptational life there that you gotta get used to. It's not just only about you anymore. It's another human being you gotta worry about now. Can you just kind of take me through like that whole transition, that whole journey for yourself? Because again, that must have been one heck of a transition to become become a mother essentially.
No, definitely. They say being a mom is one of the hardest jobs in the world. And I was like, oh, yeah, it's not that hard. Yes, it is. So kudos to all the moms out there. Shout out to my mom. But yeah, it was just, there's a real big need for foster families in Manitoba. And at the time, me and my mom, we have great big hearts and we just wanted to help out the communities. And so we took in foster kids who needed temporary placements or a safe place to stay before they got reunited with family. And DJ came to our door when he was 2 days old. We absolutely fell in love with him the moment we saw him, big chubby cheeks. And he's 15 years old now, going on 16, and he's 6 feet tall. Like, it's crazy to see his growth. But yeah, we were able to adopt him in 2021. And life has been different, but I couldn't imagine it any other way. He is the love of my life. He has my whole heart. And it's been a journey raising a teenage boy. That is a challenge. But yeah, it's just when you love somebody, when you care about someone, all the hard work, just like sport, it pays off. And so thank God for sport because it taught me a lot to kind of go into what it takes to be a guardian or a parent, a sister, a mom, someone who's just looking after somebody else. I think I've always been sort of a team player, someone who cares for others before myself. And I think that extends into my personal life. I would do anything for him. I call him my partner in crime. We do everything together. He's been on the road with me with the national team. Christine Sinclair gave him his birthday cake for his 13th birthday. Like, what kid can say that? So he's had a unique life, but I wouldn't have it any other way.
Well, I can say I'm quite jealous. Just from the hell fortune, I'm jealous of that. But I think that's another big thing too, because again, and I want to touch on it briefly because I know you said that DJ's been your partner in crime, and he's even joined you on some of your journeys, especially professionally, into living in the U.S. and Kansas there. And I know what kind of helped, led to the adoption of DJ was that there was a period of time where he was taken from your family there for, I think it was I think you described it, the longest 44 days of your life, right?
Correct.
Now, again, in that case, came full circle, and now he's got part of your family. He's your brother. He's your brother's son. And it's just only going to be an ongoing relationship. And it's honestly something that it just seems like such a beautiful bond, if I'm going to be quite honest. And another question I did have though is DJ playing soccer?
He is not. He is actually a competitive boxer, believe it or not. Individual sport and just like goes toe to toe. We tried to get him into soccer early days. He's a bigger kid. He's like I said, 6 feet tall now, but early days I was like, you gotta get in. And so we signed him up for Timbit soccer and they kept trying to put him in net. And I was like, no, you're not gonna be a goalkeeper. We want you out. And so that didn't work out. He played a season with the Timbits and kind of stopped from there. So
Just speaking as a goalkeeper, by the way, there's nothing wrong with being a goalkeeper.
no, not at all.
Come on.
I forgot that piece. I shouldn't have said that.
It's okay. I'll forgive you.
GKs are unique. Every GK I've met is a unique individual. It takes us like, you've got to be a brave soul. People say, what's the hardest position? I think that definitely is like
Yeah.
to get up, down, save goals, but your body in front, like, not for me.
Well, they say that if for being a goalie, you got to be crazy or have a screw loose. And,
100%.
definitely I can say I got a screw loose. So, and you know what? Hey, that's fantastic for DJ. I mean, obviously boxing, a lot of footwork. That's the name of the game. So again, that's probably some translational skills there from soccer over to boxing. And you know what? Yeah, that's a sport. Yeah, I can't do it. I just can't do that. But hey, all props to him, and I hope that wherever he wants to go in life, in terms of whether it be boxing, wherever he wants to go, he succeeds. And obviously, with a family support system like that he has, I'm sure that he has all the ability to succeed.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
So, and then one last thing on this topic before we kind of go here. So I know there's some viewers here that might be newer moms, newer parents. Obviously, do you have any kind of like tips or tricks for new parents or just how to handle teenagers in general?
And red wine. I'm just kidding. No, just have patience and give yourself grace. Like, honestly, there's more probably hard days than there are good ones, but soak up the good moments and take in all the hugs and shower, your people with love. I think life is too short to not do that. You never know what's going to happen on any given day. So enjoy every moment the best you can. Have patience with yourself and give yourself grace because it's one of the hardest jobs in the world, like I said.
That's what I heard. I'm not a parent yet, but that's one thing that I'm obviously having to prepare myself for in the future if I ever do have kids. But yeah, it's like one of the hardest jobs, but the most rewarding jobs that it can be.
Yeah.
So I know that you obviously played in Kansas City, so you played in the NWSL, had a successful career there. But we also did mention you did play abroad. I believe you went over to England and played for Notts County. Is that correct?
Yes, Notts County. Went to England before it was cool to go to England.
Trendsetter.
That's it. That's what I like to call myself. Yeah.
So like we said, adapting. You go to a different country, and trust me, I was just there, but a different way of life. I mean, it's a different way of football as well. Can you just talk about your first time meeting the club there, getting to go onto the pitch and playing? I would assume it would be a different game. Like, how was that whole experience?
Yeah, I think having been that homebody and staying local for university, I think there was a point where I was like, I got an opportunity to go to England and I would regret it had I not gone and spread my wings a little bit. I do think you should go if you have an opportunity at least once to, get out of your province, your country, experience a different way of life and a different city and country. For me, England, it was kind of easy in the sense that they still spoke English. I knew a couple people who had already played in the league, so that was a smooth transition there. And I think what excited me was the English Premier League. Like we were potentially going to be able to play in stadiums that I watched on TV. And so I can say that I played at Wembley, having been there in the FA Cup with my team, and we lost that game. But to play in that stadium, that's a box I can tick. How cool is that? And yeah, the game is different compared to the NWSL. Obviously the game has changed since I went there. It was in 2014, 2015 when I went to England. So the game has definitely adapted and evolved there for the better. But when I went, it was really physical, sort of just like a long ball game and not the most technical, where I found in the NWSL, it was pure athletes, pace, and super technical. So that would kind of be the difference at the time. But again, that gap has completely closed in 2026.
Well, and that's the one thing too. Again, it's always kind of that it's always kind of like that that generalization when for pro players going over to like the Premier League or just playing in England in general, it's always a lot more physical, a lot of fast pace. But again, that physicality is sometimes it's tough for players to get used to, especially when you see some players from other countries, like whether it be more technical countries like Spain, Italy, France. Like sometimes they have troubles adapting to that physicality. But obviously, with a name like Destroyer, I'm sure that you're more than welcome to take on that physicality and probably give it back to a lot of those English players out there too.
Yeah, that was one part I was able to get over real quick.
So not only do you play in England, and I have to ask this first. So for anyone that visits, the UK or lives there, do you have any like kind of tips or tricks or any like cool like food spots that you could maybe like highlight?
Man, you're making me go back in my memory bank here. Surprisingly, what surprised me when I was there is that the Indian food is delicious. You wouldn't think it, but they have delicious Indian food. And there was a place that I frequented very often, not an Indian spot, but it was actually a Jamaican spot with a Winnipeg owner, which was crazy. It was called Turtle Bay, in Knox County, which of all places, I was like, I'm from Winnipeg. So I went there very often, delicious Caribbean food. The Indian food is great there. And the puka pies, they're a famous English, dish. A little like similar to a chicken pot pie, but they call them puka pies. You can get them at the stadiums. They're pretty tasty.
Oh, lovely. Because I was just there, and everyone kept saying to me, "Oh, the food in England's not good. It's so bland." And I'm like, I went there, and I was like, actually, not bad. And trust me, I like East Indian food, and I got to have it over there, and yeah, actually, a really good cuisine. So I was really curious because again, trying to curb that stereotype with UK food.
Right.
Now, another question I do have is so after your time in Knox County, there, you go back to the NWSL, and this has obviously been something that I think it's been kind of a little bit of a running joke sometimes that you've been flirting with retirement for about 10 years or so. It's always like, oh, I'm going to retire. You know what? I'll actually come back for another season. So, can you just kind of take me through like what always brought you back to play another season?
Man, my love for the sport. I think the option that, teams still wanted me. I still had a vital role within teams. And yeah, it is a going joke since after the 20, what was it, Rio Olympics, I was like, yeah, that's it. And every coach that I talked to, they're like, you still have so much to give to the game. You can't quit. And I've been so fortunate to have people having my back to keep me in it, not only from family, but from coaches, national team, club level, local. Like I've always had an amazing support system. And I think, when I didn't believe in myself or I wanted to quit or give up or just like, yeah, I've done what I've needed to, like people have always kept me in the game. And then again, my love for it. And one friend told me, run till the wheels fall off. And that has stuck with me. And I'm like, I'm going to keep going as long as teams want me, as long as I'm able to run and keep up and my game doesn't waver. And why not? I mean, what a beautiful thing to be able to do for so long.
Yeah, and again, you have that opportunity to still play at the pro level. And again, it's something it's really hard to give those up. And that's another thing I also want to touch on too, just about post post football, post soccer, about the next journey about that after. And I know with your final season there with Kansas City and NWSL, there was some hints there that maybe you weren't like, necessarily as happy with the final season. Maybe didn't get the playing time that you maybe wanted to help maybe get you on the send off there. So, you finish your season out there with Kansas City there and in NWSL. And then lo and behold, your friend and other partners there start up the NSL and the first ever women's professional league, which I can't believe how long it took. Sorry. Either way, it's great to have. I just can't believe it took this long to get a professional league in Canada, especially with the talent we have. But then you decide to come out of retirement, and this presents another opportunity. I mean, we all know you joined Ottawa Rapid, became the captain of the club. So you retired, but then this opportunity comes up. Can you kind of take me through how that whole process worked and how you ended up making your return back to soccer, but at a professional level in Canada?
Yeah, it was a very short-lived retirement. Being really good friends with Diana, I knew, she had this league in the background. She was spearheading it and wanting it to come to fruition. So I had ongoing conversations with her, like, is it going to happen? What's going on? And she would text me, honestly, every other week, like, it's happening. We need you. Can you join? And at that point, I did have a season that I didn't want to end on in Kansas City, coming back from injury, not making the official 18 roster for Canada, like a lot of disappointment, not going out and kind of lost my mom that year. Like it was just, there was a lot both professionally and on off field that I was just like, I'm tired. Like This is not how I wanted to go out. And then to have this opportunity come to fruition in the NSL, to be able again to help build something from the ground up that I have talked about, dreamed about alongside my national team friends. I mean, it was ongoing conversations. It was tough, but at the end of the day, again, didn't want to have regrets. And who can say they've been a part of, building two leagues and helping to continue on a legacy and history in Canada. And that was all things that contributed to my decision to play for the Rapid.
Well, thankfully you did, because not only did you make an impact, you also scored your first goal, right?
I sure did. It was the scrappiest, ugliest goal you could imagine. Very destroyer like, but got it over the line. I can say 1 goal, 1 assist in this league. And I said I couldn't retire until I did that. So I guess that's what I needed.
Well, my dad used to say this to me growing up: a goal's a goal.
100%. I wanted like a banger from the top of the 18, like something beautiful. You saw some of those happen in the league. It didn't happen for me, but to do it in our opening match, I mean, it was pretty cool. The crowd went hype. I celebrated, I think, for 5 minutes. My coach got a yellow card for celebrating with me. It was incredible experience. So fun.
And you know what? That's actually really funny, because I remember watching TSN, just watching the highlight. It had Desiree Scott first goal, and it shows the goal. I'm like, okay, and he saw the celebration. It was just absolutely just pandemonium there. And then, yeah, obviously your coach got a yellow card, but well worth it. I mean, that goal has been a long time in the making.
Long time coming. Wish I could have scored a few more, but I guess tick the box early and then just do the dirty work and the destroyer bit for the rest of the season.
And you know what? That also just takes me back to just like, with any new league, there's always going to be bumps in the road. There's obviously going to be things that are going to be tailored to it and just things that will only help it grow. But one thing I really will say is getting to watch the league, especially from this first inaugural season, I think it's so fantastic to see, like, not only have like, yourself and Diana Matheson as well, like being able to not only engage the league, but also have ownership that's very involved, who are very passionate about it. And it's not just maybe always about the bottom line, because that's the one thing that when I look at this league, you watch anything from the highlights. I unfortunately have not had the chance to go see one live yet. That's still on the bucket list. But you get to see the passion from the fans and just how great of a shining example of how a professional league would be here in Canada. Because again, that's just one thing that's just different from when I watched it, to be honest. And it honestly gives me a lot of optimism about the future growth of this league. And this could really be the start of something amazing, where how our players here can not only get opportunities, but they can develop at a high level in their own backyard.
100%. Again, a league that has been not only needed and wanted by national team players, but needed for the fans who have supported the national team for so many years. They show up every weekend to the games across the country, coast to coast. People have showed up. They are excited. They're wearing the merch. They are just full supporters through and through. And it has been a league that has been in need and wanted for so many years. So to see it come to life, to see the success in year one, I can attest to the fact that year one of the NWSL, the NSL is leaps and bounds and strides ahead of where you would want to see the sport in a year one. So that's a huge step. Not only from sponsorships, but production, the way, it's accessible to fans, not only if you're in the stands, but you're watching it on TV, on YouTube. Like, there's multiple ways to see the game. And I think that's so important, is that accessibility. Women's sport is booming right now. It's a need that's wanted in Canada, and it's something that can be successful if people show up and invest and just watch the game, because it's a beautiful thing. And there's so much unforeseen talent that is right here in our backyard.
And that's the big thing too. In its first year, it did so well. And the big thing that really stuck out to me too, not only did the ownership backing, but the NSL brought over some star players, like some, and it's just one of those things too, where for any new startup league, that can be hard to attract some top level players, and the NSL did. So it really is this testament there, and it's only going to attract more. So it's going to be something that's going to be ongoing. It's only going to grow from here, and I'm really excited to see the leaps and bounds for this league. But I just really had to end it off with this question here about your first season with Ottawa Rapid. Can you just talk about just how is your overall feeling from it? And when you look back on your first season, like how did you feel about your first overall season in the NSL?
Yeah, for me, the NSL, it was an amazing, beautiful way to come full circle and end my journey. I think it was the best decision I could have made. I thank Diana all the time for hounding me on the phone and saying, you've got to play. And it was the year I didn't know I needed, honestly, after coming off a kind of disappointing season with Kansas City, to be able to kind of write my own script and help again, have impact in my backyard in the country that I love and have represented for so many years, to be able to help build a club from the ground up, as you said, like helping to lead the culture, show what the standards are. I was on the players committee for the league. I was able to, write the mandates of what to protect the players. Like I've had a hand in a lot of things helping to make this what it can be. And to be able to play in it in the backyard with fans who just love the Destroyer and have supported my career for so long in my backyard. I think, it was just a beautiful, beautiful thing and one of the best chapters of my soccer career.
That's honestly so amazing to hear. And that's just kind of also points to like, you're wearing many hats in the behind the scenes too. And that's something that, that's, I think in this type of new league, you have to be able to help different type of roles to help make it grow. So, and that's something we're going to touch on a little bit later. But the one thing I want to talk over first is last year in May 2025, you talked about missing out on the training camp for Canada, but you get a friendly game here organized basically for your farewell match, playing in front of your hometown family and friends at Princess Auto Stadium in basically in front of a basically packed out crowd. And when that first announcement happened, bought my tickets right away because I knew I couldn't miss on this moment. It's a piece of history in Manitoba. I just really need to hear your take on it. I mean, you're there, you're playing against Haiti. Canada put in an amazing performance, but you step onto that pitch and you see all the local community here out for you. Because again, celebrating 188 appearances for the Canadian national team, truly something special.
Yeah, that's exactly what it was. I was so fortunate, to Casey Stoney, the head coach of the national team, to allow me the opportunity to come back and get one final cap with the team to wear the red and white and be able to do it in Winnipeg. Like that'll be the third time I've come and played there in my decade plus with the team. So to be able to do that, celebrate the career I've had with family, friends, the community that supported me in my career. That's again a bucket list moment. And, it had been a bit of a time since I had put on the jersey. So I was nervous. I was like, I hope I'm going to like play well. She's like, you want to play 90 minutes? I was like, no, like I thought he'd maybe get 11 minutes or something like, 20, but she let me start. She let me wear the captain's band. I had the guard of honor with all my friends I grew up playing soccer with. Like they made it so special for me. I felt so loved, so supported and celebrated for the service that I've done for the national team. And it was just the beautiful send off. I wish I had 10 more years in me. It's bittersweet to end the career for country and for club, but I'm just so fortunate to have had the career and to be able to celebrate at home with the people I love most.
And that's the very important thing too. And I think I got emotional when that sub board came up and it said to you to go off, and it's like, it's your final time being on the pitch in a national jersey, and truly a celebrated career, but a lot of emotion, a lot. Like people beside me were crying because again, you've been such a symbol for the community here, and it was just a fantastic moment to have, and I'm just so happy that you're able to do that right here in your own backyard.
Yeah, it was really special.
And also in front of your own section called the Destroyers, I must add.
That's pretty badass. I like it. I like it a lot.
So, and that's one really big thing I really want to highlight on. Again, that's obviously being there, a very big moment for not only the community here, but just for the Canadian national team in general. Now, the big thing I want to talk about here, though, just kind of touching back to the NSL. So obviously, the Winnipeg community has kind of gone through a little bit of a dark period here. To put it lightly, obviously Valor, temporarily, suspending operations. So currently without a professional team here. And, I've been hearing murmurs, don't get me wrong, in the community. Apparently Diana was here visiting Ralph Catafio. Again, not rumors. I don't know for sure, but can you give us any little advice or any little kind of confirmation about a potential team coming here to Winnipeg?
There's not a ton I can say, but I can say that obviously there is a expansion team coming to the NSL in 2027. There are prospective cities that are being looked at. Winnipeg is one of them. So I can confirm that. Is it confirmed that it is for sure Winnipeg? No. But obviously myself, Rob Gale, we are doing all we can to make that a reality. It is a dream of mine to be able to continue to grow the game in Winnipeg. It is also Rob's. He's a very passionate guy, obviously involved with Valor, building that club up. We have experience. We know the game very well. And we also know the importance of community and the sport. And when you put those hand in hand with people who want to create something special, do it for the right reasons, who have a love of the game, I think when you have that beautiful recipe, Winnipeg and its potential, the sky's the limit. So NSL, if you hear anything, if you see support, if you can support, do it early, do it often, do it loudly, because it's something that we want to bring for 27.
That's something too that I'm very excited for. And obviously, the fan community here, the Red River Rising, has put out some opinions about community support. So again, I'll be posting things about on my socials about anything going on regarding NSL, any potential about an expansion team coming here. Again, if I'm really praying that one comes here, because again, I just want to see professional soccer return here to a rightful place here in Winnipeg, because it only will thrive here. And again, if we get an NSL team, sky's the limit, and I'm just so excited. So obviously we'll keep updated here on what's going on, everything around the NSL regarding Winnipeg and potential expansion. But thank you so much, Desiree, for kind of giving us a little bit of insight on how much you could talk about regarding that. So again, we'll be watching. Let's just say that.
Yes, keep your eyes and ears tuned for sure.
Now, Desiree, we're coming up on on one of the topics I wanted to talk about here. So, I mean, obviously, you finished your season there with Ottawa Rapid, a good send off for your career. I know we just talked about the last game here in Winnipeg, but post retirement, how is that transition? So, what are you kind of looking to kind of into? I know you kind of mentioned about some coaching potentially. I know you've done some camps here with Winnipeg as well in the community, and also own some businesses, like own a business and Pitchside Coffee, if I'm correct.
Correct. Yeah.
So can you kind of take me through post-retirement and how that's looking so far?
Yeah, it's still kind of fresh, honestly. Coming into the new year, obviously trying to figure out the next steps. Everyone's like, what's next? What's next? And you think knowing it was coming, I would have had a plan, but not totally. Some advice was like, don't take the first thing that jumps at you. And I'm trying to see where I can have, again, the most impact, doing something that I love and I'm passionate about. Obviously, project with NSL, trying to, get that expansion, but also just give back to the soccer community, stay involved in the sport within my province, within Winnipeg. While also being an entrepreneur and helping to grow, the coffee game. I'm a big coffee drinker. Me and 5 of my other Kansas City teammates started Pitchside Coffee, so that's growing as well. There's a lot of learning and adaptations and like not going to training every day or preparing for a preseason. Like it's very weird for me. It's been an adjustment, like no one telling me to go work out and finding the different motivations and like, am I going to find a job that has the hours I want? Like there's a lot of like realities that are kind of hitting me in the face of what's to come. But I think, I have a lot to give still to the game, a lot of knowledge that I've learned about the sport over the years. So being able to just share that back with the next generation, with something in Winnipeg, Manitoba, just growing the game. That's what I want to do. There's nothing set in stone yet, but I've got a few ideas that are percolating.
Well, that's something we're definitely gonna keep watch out for, because again, you excel at whatever you do, and I mean on the pitch, off the pitch. I'm a big fan of you in general and just how much you've given back to the community here. Personally, this is just my own opinion. I think you'd be a great broadcaster or like an analyst for NSL and just in general for Canadian soccer. I honestly think that. I think that if you I know you've done a little bit dabbling in it. I think it's something you should really consider because you really got a personality for it.
Oh, well, thank you. Yeah, I have been told that, which is very kind. And I have done some media training and I do love that side of the game as well. So hopefully, an opportunity will show up where I can still talk about the game and that broadcasting piece as well.
I might ask some by the way, big this is a fun thing. I've ever since graduating university and going to the workforce, been addicted to coffee. So I might have to ask you some questions about maybe some recommended blends you might recommend for Pitchside Coffee, because obviously we want to support it. So I might have some questions about that afterwards.
Yeah, we'll have to get you some brews. Some game day grinds is what our main brew is. It's a little mix of Brazil, Colombia, Nicaragua. It's delicious. It's not just like us putting out any coffee. We've literally tasted it, blended it, created our own blend, and really put in some work. So it's a delicious cup, if you will. So we'll have to get you.
I can't wait to try that. Honestly, I've been looking for a new brew to have, and that sounds like it would be my cup of joe.
There you go.
So, Desiree, that concludes here the Observer of Football podcast here. Again, I know that it's a historic career, a long career. I know that we could be here for hours just talking about your many memories and things like that. And, I think that's one thing I just want to say thank you again so much for your time and just being able to talk about your journey through the game, also personal life, and just that type of thing. And before we kind of give you a shout out, of, just what you want to shout out here about what's going on with you and what's going on post retirement. Wanted to ask you this one final question, and it's one I want to see if you pick this answer because I thought that it was pretty funny when the story you mentioned.
I'm nervous.
Okay, so throughout your whole time on a football pitch, whether it be youth, university, professional, or international, what's been one of the more, I guess, embarrassing moments on the pitch that you've had? And
Embarrassing.
and the one I come up with, the one I heard of was like I don't want to give it away, but there is with the NWSL.
I'm trying to think. It's been a long career, a lot of games, a lot of practices and training sessions. I'm trying to think. I'm on the spot here.
Well,
Embarrassing moment.
I'll give you a hint, another one.
Give me one. Maybe you tell me and I'll be like, oh yeah, that was it.
It includes a water bottle.
Oh my gosh, I forgot about that. I think I still have the scar on my eye. That was embarrassing. Oh my goodness. I
Yeah,
forgot that. It was probably so hard to hit to the head. It kind of hurt, and I forgot about that.
yeah, and that was one I wanted to ask you about it because I know you're talking about the story, and you said like I'm gonna go to the touch line to go maybe listen to instructions from my coach, and then you're running over there, and all of a sudden you just get blindsided by a water bottle, and it causes a huge it's pretty significant injury when you're playing. So I thought that was something that like, ouch.
I forgot about that. Yeah. Again, like as one of the captains, you go to the side. What do we need? What do we need to change? Tactics, talk to the coach. And I said, I'm never going to the sideline again after that. My teammate would just like chug in a Gatorade bottle and then toss it. And she didn't know I was behind her. And I had to play with a swollen eye for like 20 minutes left of the game. It was awful. And they were like, the whistle blew and I was like, Elise, you threw that. And she's like, what happened? I turned and my face was swollen. She's like, oh my goodness, I can't. Like, it was just something that you couldn't write up. But yeah, I had to put a bag of peas on my eyes for the rest of the day, get the swelling down. It was pretty bruised. I had a black eye after that.
Wow, I was gonna say how hard did Elise throw that water bottle?
It was full. It was full.
Jeez. Well, you know what? That's one little fun question. I thought that I wanted to see if you remember it, but I'm glad we were able to jog your memory there and to hopefully, have that share that moment there in Kansas City. So, again, Desiree, thank you again so much for joining us here on the Observer Football Podcast. And before we go, do you have anything to shout out that you want to mention? Maybe other things we didn't talk about before we end the podcast here today?
No, I think we covered it all, but just thanks for having me. Thanks for allowing me to share my story. Shout out to all the people who have supported the Destroyer in my career, both for club, country, locally in the province. I thank you. It's been a beautiful journey, and yeah, stay tuned for what's next.
Absolutely. And Desiree, again, thank you so much for being not only the beacon of Canadian soccer, but representing the 204 here in Manitoba, the Manitoba GOAT, Desiree Scott. We'll catch you in the next episode. Thank you guys for tuning in. Peace.